in 91, Mansell lost the championship, I reckon, in the first 4 races. And as much as anything else because of lack of reliability of the Williams compared with the McLaren. And it seems to me that the name of the game in 1992 is going to be reliability, because every point is going to count.
Certainly, the Williams team made a tactical error, in my opinion. I think I thought so at the time, to run their automatic gearbox, their semi-automatic gearbox. They justified that retrospectively on the grounds that there was no other way to run the car, because that was an integral part of the car and it would have been a totally new design. But the problems largely, as I understand it, came from the electronics of the gearbox, which is the difficult bit of it. There's no reason why they couldn't run it as a manual to start off with, as Jordan, I believe, are doing this year. They've got a motorcycle-style gearbox, and all they'll have to do is sort the mechanicals out, which is the easy bit, and then put the brain on, which they can fiddle around with for as long as they like.
Well, as of now, it looks as though both Williams and McLaren are going to have at least the first 3 races with developments of the 1991 car as opposed to their new 1992 cars, in which case we should see McLaren and Williams much more competitive with each other, and in particular Mansell and Senna much more competitive with each other.
My gut feeling is that the overall package of McLaren and Williams towards the end of last season, once McLaren had caught up the big gap, or reduced the big gap of performance that Williams managed to get over them in mid-season, round about July and August. Really, the McLaren was not as good a car, probably, but by the end of the season they were just about competitive, and Senna was there to make the difference. And I think that would probably be the same. And it is my opinion that McLaren, which is bad news for Williams and for Mansell, have much more room for improvement in their last year's arrangements than Williams do. For example, if we take bits and pieces at a time, first of all, the engine. Renault, of course, have been developing that engine for a very long time. They developed it for 2 or 3 years before the Formula even started, right? And they've run it all the time. Whereas Honda, their V12 is only 1 season old, plus a little bit of development time before, which, well, in the normal stage means, you know, development reduces, your improvement reduces and reduces and reduces through the life of a project. But it brings me to one other thing. You said that you see that Williams really lost the championship in the first 4 races, and certainly they gave McLaren a big start. But McLaren had luck during those 4 races, because I think in at least 3 of them that they won, they had mechanical trouble that could easily have put them out of the race. And so there was they were a bit marginal. But at the end of the day, Williams were still set to win the championship when Mansell threw it off the road in Japan for no reason. Now, one of the problems is that I can see a scenario where they can arrive at the climax of the championship in better shape than in 91, where they were always chasing from behind, Williams I'm talking about. But Mansell has now thrown 3 championships away that he should have won. And last year, he could not have had a bigger car advantage. I mean, that's the sort of car advantage that people dream about, that he had in the Williams for a lot of the season. And he still, at the end of the day, chucked it away. And the worry is that even if the team gets it all together, because they made mistakes too, whether Mansell can stand up under pressure. You know, I hope and believe that he can learn from all this and come with a different approach. He's gone to Florida to live there. Maybe things will change.
Well,
but
yeah, I'll tell you this. I spent the whole day with him very, very recently, since he's come back from Florida, and as you rightly point out, he went over there to be able to train in the winter. He's lost weight, and he seems to me to be a more relaxed, a calmer, a more mature Nigel
all should
Mansell.
be good for him.
Yeah, and who is very conscious of what the situation is. He's 38 years old now. He can't have all that many years left in his Grand Prix career. And I honestly think that if Mansell continues to have the mental attitude that he's got now, and that Williams have managed to close the gap and make the wheel nuts stay on and all that sort of thing, that the season is going to come down between Senna and Mansell again. But what we haven't done is look at what else is up against McLaren. I mean, for instance, Ferrari, no Prost, but they've got Alesi and they've got Capelli. How would you see that scenario developing?
Well, I think Alesi is certainly capable of winning Grand Prix. Capelli, for me, has never proven himself, but at the same time, I haven't seen enough of Capelli in the right sort of car to say that he's not capable. I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying that I don't know that he is. But Alesi certainly is. The problem I see at Ferrari, though, is that they are really restructuring. I mean, Luca Montezemolo they have finally had the sense to bring him in and give him total control, right? So at least they've got one person running the ship instead of a whole bunch of people fighting each other and all reporting to Fiat and all sneaking on the other person and trying to spend more energy, stabbing each other in the back to secure their positions than they are to get the team to win races.
Luca Montezemolo.
Luca Montezemolo has been, I gather, given a carte blanche. He is restructuring, but he himself, because I've spoken to him during the winter, is not expecting quick results because the teams these days, particularly Ferrari, are too big and unwieldy. You cannot turn a team like that round overnight. There is too much rubbish, too many difficulties, too many feuds to be broken up and reconstituted for them to do it quickly, as well as building a competitive car. They've got a big weakness with their engine. Their engine is not as good as the Renault and the Honda. Get a reasonable chassis. There's no reason why they couldn't win the odd race.
Now there's two jokers in the pack that I am desperately hoping, from the point of view of an interesting Grand Prix scene, are going to come good, and they are Benetton and Jordan. And if you look at Benetton, first of all, they've got one of the greatest new talents in Grand Prix racing I've seen for a long, long time in Michael Schumacher, backed up by a man who's got to make his reputation come good this year, and that's Martin Brundle, if he's to continue. They've got all the acumen and drive of Tom Walkinshaw. They've got the Ford engine, and most importantly, they've got Goodyear tyres, which are going to make a big difference to them this year.
Yes, and I mean, you're absolutely right about the Benetton driver combination. Funny enough, I think it's the best thing in his career that could have happened to Martin Brundle, because he has been knocking on the door for a long time. He has quite rightly been saying, and other people have observed, he's never been given a fair chance in a good car. He showed he was a great Formula 3 driver, but since then he hasn't really had a chance to show his talent. To have Schumacher alongside him, who is undoubtedly a tremendous talent, is the perfect opportunity, because if Brundle can put himself in front of Schumacher, he won't put himself in front by much, because there's no doubt Schumacher is very, very good, right? But he should do. If he can do that, even by a couple of tenths, but reasonably consistently, finish and qualify just in front of him, then we know that Brundle has been wronged all this time, because we know Schumacher is definitely good.
Now, if you look at the Jordan team, I think it's a bit the other way, because I think Gary Anderson last year produced a car which was a potential winner out of the box. This year he has refined that car. This year he's got the Yamaha engine, and Yamaha are determined to beat Honda, and we know they can do it in the motorcycle world, and I don't see why they shouldn't be able to do it in the car world. So there's a car there, there's the engine there. Now, is the Achilles heel of the Jordan team going to be the quality of the drivers? I am not personally convinced, after last season, that Modena is all that he was cracked up to be in my eyes in 1990, and Mauricio Gugelmin is certainly not an ace. Have they got it?
I quite agree with you. To deal with Gugelmin first, because he's easy to dismiss, and I'm afraid that's the best I can do for him. He's not, as you say, he's not an ace. He's not really, in my opinion, even real Formula One material, but to be fair, he is bringing funds to the team, so he is
and he's competent. He's a lot better than some of them are, isn't it?
Exactly, bringing money, and he's competent, and a team like Jordan doesn't need somebody involving them in a lot of expense with damaged machinery and that sort of thing. They want somebody who they know can bring the car home at the end of a race and will pick up the money and the points that's necessary. So from that point of view, Gugelmin, they could have done a lot worse, but he won't set the world on fire. Modena is a much more difficult kettle of fish, because I saw Modena through the best period of his career, which is when he won the Formula 3000 championship, and since then, and when he first came into Formula One in Brabham, and he was very impressive indeed. Since then he hasn't been impressive, but he's not been in very good cars, and it's difficult to impress in a bad car for anybody. It doesn't matter who you are. That's the first point.
I'll drink
and
to
Eddie
that.
Jordan, for whom I've got a lot of respect for understanding drivers, more so probably than anybody else running a Formula One team. He's got faith, and that's a fairly good pointer for me.
I think too that with luck there are going to be two other names that are going to be crossing your lips and mine a lot more in '92 than they did last year. One is Ligier and the other is Lotus, because it actually seems conceivable that after all these years of gigantic expenditure and no success, Ligier could be closer to the front. I say could be closer to the front because they've got the Renault engine and they've got Alain Prost. Now, all right, I know Alain Prost is there by default because he lost his place in Ferrari because of the Saturnine Mr. Senna. But the fact is that Prost and Ligier with the Renault engine could be a force for '92. But here is the Murray Walker James Hunt challenge, which I think we should both give an answer to. Do you see McLaren winning races in 1992?
I do.
Yes or no? Yeah.
Yes.
So do I. Do you see Williams winning races in 1992? Yes, so do I. Do you see Ferrari winning races in '92?
Probably. The odd one. Possibly.
Yes,
Let's say possibly.
I don't know which is the stronger, probable or
I
possible.
think, I think, let's say possibly, which is to me not as strong as probably.
I'll go with that too. Do you
Even money to win one.
do you see Benetton winning one or more Grand Prix?
Oof. I'd give them a chance at one.
And who in your view, I know all the caveats, who do you think will be Grand Prix, who will be world champion in 1992?
Well, the intellectual evidence all points to Senna. However, stranger things happen. And the other thing is that if Mansell finally comes of age and gets rid of his choking problems towards the end of the season, he is well equipped to win the World Championship now. He's entirely mature, and when there's no sight of the World Championship around for Mansell, he drives like a world champion, right? It's only when he can see the finish line that he stops driving like a world champion. And if he can just cure that, and he's good enough, he should be confident enough in everything else to be able to forget the championship and just drive. And if he can just make himself do that, he can win it.
Well, speaking for I myself personally, to coin a phrase, wishes father to the thought, I have been accused of being the chairman of the Nigel Mansell fan club, and I think Nigel has got a better chance of becoming world champion this year than he's ever had.